I was so addicted to that biweekly paycheck. I was so stuck in this comfort zone of, well, this is me, this is what I do, this is what I know. And then when I got laid off at 43, I was like, oh man.
Welcome to Business Buying for Financial Independence. I'm Tim Delaney, and I help young professionals buy small businesses so they can escape the 9-to-5 and take control of their time, income, and future. If that sounds like you, hit the subscribe button and let's get into it.
Today's guest is Dennis Geelan. Dennis spent over 20 years in various corporate leadership roles across several industries. Then, at age 43, he found himself laid off for the first time in his life. Disgruntled and determined, he decided to bet on himself and become a solopreneur. Since then, he has built a successful consulting practice, Zero In, helping businesses become more customer-centric and innovative, written 4 business books, including the bestsellers The Zero In Formula and The Accidental Solopreneur, with book number 5 in the works, released 5 online courses, launched the Happy Accidents newsletter and podcast, grown a network of over 19,000 connections on LinkedIn, been a guest on over 75 podcasts, spoken at numerous events, workshops, and conferences, coached dozens of entrepreneurs, completely redesigned his life, and he just loves helping others do it too. I will also throw in there that he just was recently a TEDx speaker, in addition to all that other stuff, which I don't know how he has time to do as it is. So Dennis, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here. Look forward to jumping into your story.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. Thanks for having me on.
Anytime. So today's episode, we are going to do kind of a combination episode. We're going to do a little bit of coaching with Dennis. He's looking to buy business, but I also want him to share his background and his story because I think it's relevant to anybody that has a corporate job that they think is safe and secure and is the path to lifelong happiness. So Dennis, do you want to jump in and tell us a little bit about your background and where you're coming from?
Yeah, sure. So like you mentioned off the top, I was in that corporate, landscape for 20 plus years. And I would say the first maybe 8 to 10 years, I really enjoyed what I was doing. Fresh out of university, there's so much to learn. You're kind of learning the corporate landscape. You're growing, you're getting promotions. And then eventually, for me at least, it was kind of, okay, check, check, check. I've kind of done this now, been there, done that. And I would say I plateaued and started kind of thinking, okay, well, what else is there to do in life? Got the house, got the family, got the kids, got the job, got the promotions. I'm, contributing to my retirement. Now what? What is there to kind of look forward to? What is there to kind of do or build? And I was kind of at this point where, am I really fulfilling what I could be? Am I betting on myself? Am I building anything? Not really. I was just kind of following the script that we're told we're supposed to follow. And then once the kind of shininess wore off and I checked all these boxes, I just felt like I was drifting at that point. And I'm sure there's tons of people that can relate to that. And for me, it was, but I was so addicted to that biweekly paycheck. I was so stuck in this comfort zone of, well, this is me, this is what I do, this is what I know. I never took that leap to even trying a side hustle. Nothing for me. It seemed too risky. It seemed too out there. And then when I got laid off at 43, I was like, oh man, it was super risky not doing any of that stuff because now I'd put all my eggs in this basket. The employer, really was the one that was deciding my fate and my financial future. Now here I was on the outside looking in going, man, I wish I had have been building something else on the side all this time because I've got nothing to fall back on now. And my first instinct was, well, I better jump in and get another corporate job. That seems safe, even though I was just laid off from a corporate job. Like, how safe is that really? So that was really the defining moment where I went, okay, now's the time. I got to start doing something for myself and stop putting all my eggs in somebody else's basket.
It's amazing how well conditioned our minds are to the corporate world is safe.
Yeah.
That even though you just got let go, you jumped right back into that thought process of
it was still my instinct. It was actually my wife that said to me, hold on, Dennis, like you just got laid off. You got a nice severance package. My wife had a good job. We were fine financially. She's like, you've talked about doing something, but you've never done it. You've talked about being a consultant. Now seems like a pretty good time. Like you just got laid off. You're 43 now. You got lots of experience. You got lots of skills. You've got time. We've got a financial cushion. And she said to me, I want you to do it. And I want you to give it a full year. I don't care if you get 6 months in and you're like, I'm not liking it. Give it a full year, because if it doesn't work out, you'll know you've given it your all. And you won't, at your 75th birthday, be looking back going, man, I wish I had tried. I wish I had a bet on myself. No, you'll know you've tried and you did your best. But if you give it a full year and it works, man, like that, you'll be so proud that you did that. That was 7 years ago. So
it's awesome to have a cheerleader like that in your corner and somebody to push you to do it.
It was huge.
And giving it a full year obviously gives you some runway to make sure that you have a chance for success. Somebody that does it for a month or 2 months, you never really give yourself a shot if you do that way. Yeah. What would you say to somebody that's listening that heard you talk about kind of that you weren't satisfied, you weren't fulfilled necessarily in your job, you were kind of already thinking about what else you wanted to do.
Yeah.
What would you say to the person that says, well, that's why he got laid off. He wasn't focused on his job. He didn't care. I'm fine because I'm focused on my job.
Right.
What would you say to that person?
I mean, everybody's different. If you truly do love your job and you're passionate about it and it brings you joy and it's like, this doesn't even feel like work, maybe you're in a completely different place than I was. But it's still not 100% safe. Like you don't 100% control your future. So even if there's an inkling of you're a little bit worried about that, or you do have some other passions outside of that, start something on the side, whether starts as a hobby, whether it's just dabbling in, I'm also interested in music. What would it be like to do this? Or I'm also interested in building furniture. What would it be like to do, at least dabble in it and see what it's like to build something around that. You're going to learn a ton about marketing, about sales, about branding, even if it's not your intention that you're going to eventually do this full time. It's an incredible learning experience, and you're probably not going to regret it, because one way or the other, you're going to say, okay, I tried it and I hated it. Great. At least now I know. Or, wow, I tried it and I actually like it and I'm learning quite a bit. Boy, there's something I could fall back on or grow. If the rug ever does get pulled out of me, I'm building something here. So either way, I think it's a win-win.
Awesome. Great advice for anybody out there that is thinking that they're safe or thinking that they're comfortable in their job. The examples I've used in the past is you might absolutely love your job, but you might get a new boss who doesn't like you or you don't like, and that could change everything. Even if you love what you're doing, you never know what's going to happen. So having that secondary source of income and or starting to build additional skills on the side is well worth it in the long run. Even if you never leave your job, even if you never get laid off, it's not going to hurt you.
I've coached so many people who are in that position. They're like, but I don't even know where to start. But I'm like, it's great. I've got 7 years of experience now. I'll walk you through what you need to do, what you don't need to worry about right now. And you're in a much better position when you don't have to do it. Like some of the people I've coached, it's like, I've been laid off now and my severance is going to run out at this point in time. I need something right away. That's a terrible mindset to be in, because you're doing it because you have to make money immediately. You're going to make bad decisions. You're going to cut corners. It's all about making money. Start before you need to, so you can do it the right way, and you can start building these things and start making better decisions that are based on long-term rather than short-term needs.
Yeah, fantastic advice. So let's shift gears a little bit. So you've been doing this, working on your own, being a solopreneur for about 7 years now.
Yep.
And we connected because you expressed some interest in buying a business. You told me you've been looking for a little bit.
Yep.
So what brought on that shift as opposed to just working for yourself? And then,
I would say very similar kind of set of circumstances and mindset to what I was talking about earlier. The first 7 or 8 years of my corporate career, I was loving it. I was learning so much. I was growing. This is great. I'm getting promoted. I'm learning all kinds of new things. I can mirror that with my solopreneur experience. Wow. First 7 years have been incredible. I've learned a ton. Marketing, sales, business strategy, how to scale my business, how to create more passive recurring income, how to grow a community. All that kind of stuff was brand new to me. I had no experience in any of that, and I've had to learn. But I've gotten to the point now where it's like, okay, check. I've done a bunch of these things, and I've come to the realization I am my business. It's all built around me. I'm a solopreneur. This isn't something I can package and sell to somebody. So it's still not 100% safe. It's still not really something I can package and sell and build a legacy around. So even though I've super enjoyed it, even though I've learned a ton and grown so much, it's not really a business. It's more a brand that I built, and I am the brand. Okay. So do I want to start a whole new business from scratch? Probably not. I've been through the experience and I not really have a desire for that. The conventional knowledge or wisdom is buy an existing business that already has a proven product with proven customers, and maybe the person is just at that age where they're ready to sell or they don't have the energy to continue to do that. It's much better to walk in and purchase something that's kind of ready made. So that's where my mindset is at right now.
That's a perfect thinking, in my opinion, because like you said, a lot of owners of businesses get to a point where they're either checking out because what you mentioned, that 7 to 8 years of go get it, go hard, love what you're doing. And then for a lot of people, that interest starts to fade or change or evolve over time. And the business might still be super profitable, but a little bit stagnant, and fresh blood can increase sales, make it more profitable, find things in the bottom half of the balance or the P&L that you can cut out. So what kind of things have you been looking at, and how can I help?
Yeah. So I'm trying to be very intentional about this. I don't want to buy a business that just all of a sudden becomes, a 60-hour a week job for me. Right. I don't want to be the business, and I don't want the business to have to rely on me. So right now, I'm in a very service-based business. I do coaching, I do workshops, I do consulting, I do speaking engagements. If I'm not there, I'm not getting paid, other than the books and courses that I sell where they create some recurring revenue, but those are much smaller ticket items, right? I really want a business where, okay, it's already there, it's already established, it's already running, but it doesn't require the owner to have to be there, 60 hours a week to make it run. So for me, something like car washes, where yes, there's some maintenance, yes, there's some supervision, maybe even a part-time person has to be there to do some stuff, but it's a product that just makes money on its own. Or storage units, same sort of thing. Okay, the infrastructure's there. People are paying monthly, payments to just store their stuff in there. It doesn't require a whole lot of time and attention from the owner. Laundromats, same sort of thing. Again, maybe some maintenance and upkeep and so on, but it's not like you're there having to sell or trade your time for money. So something along those lines is where I've been starting to kick the tires lately.
Great. So one of the things that you touched on there is buying a job, or buying a business versus buying a job. And this is something I've talked about in the past on YouTube and other places. Nothing wrong for somebody that wants to go out and buy a job. For some people, if you're leaving a corporate career, or if you're have nothing else going on at the moment, or you have the time and capacity to do it, buying a business that is a job, or buying a job that you can grow into a business, is a great path to go down. That is what I did myself when I bought my wine and liquor store.
Yep.
I knew that I was going to be jumping in full time, both feet in, the whole body in, drowning for a little bit, and then slowly pulling myself up and out.
Yeah.
But for Dennis's situation, he already has a successful business that he's trading a lot of his time for money as it is. And so he doesn't want to sacrifice that known revenue stream for jumping into a wine and liquor store where he's got to be there for 80 hours a week. And then his primary source of income will suffer. So the line of thinking is great. Laundromats, car washes, things that are not super time intensive on a small scale. So have you dug into any of those particular businesses and figured out what it would take to run them, or time-wise or otherwise?
Yeah. Not as deep as I could have. I've done some searches to see some that were for sale in my area. If I was to do it, I don't want to be completely hands-off with my first business. I want to learn it. I want to be involved. So I can't have one that's, 10 hours away and then just rely completely on some other person to run it for me. Maybe down the road, that could be an option when I know more about it and I've kind of refined how it works. But so I've been looking for ones closer in my area. A few have come up. The first thing for me is kind of looking at the numbers. Is this a profitable business? How much money would I have to put into it in order to have it cash flow appropriately? How much of that would be my own money versus, borrowed money from the bank or investors or other types of loans that could be out there. So that's kind of one I've been at. I haven't found one yet where I'm like, okay, that's the one. But I've just been kind of kicking the tires on probably maybe 6 or 7 that I've found in the last year or so.
Okay. I like where you're starting from a somewhat clear picture on what you want. So you've defined your geography, which is great. You want it to be within a certain driving distance, something that you can put your hands on a regular basis without having to jump on a plane or spend days in the car. So that's an awesome starting point. You've narrowed in on the type of industry to a point. From the ones that you've looked at so far, what has held you back, or what has made them not the right fit?
So a couple car washes. One was just a little too far away where I thought, okay, I wouldn't be able to be hands-on enough. It was going to be like a 2-hour drive. And I thought, it's probably just a little too far outside the range for my first business and really getting involved. Another car wash I looked at, it was going to require some major upgrades and maintenance. And I thought, okay, that's a little too much investment right off the bat to get this thing up and running, and a little too risky, I felt, for my first one. Laundromats, I found a couple that were in my area for sale, close enough in range. One seemed like a great fit. It was already up and running. No maintenance. It's fairly new. There's somebody already involved that was going to be handling. They also offered like a folding and drying service and stuff like that. So that was great. 2 issues I had with that one. I don't know if I want to have an employee right off the bat with my first business. So that was a little bit hesitant about that, even though it's a pretty small part-time role. The other problem I had with it was I didn't feel like the location it was in, there would be enough demand for a laundromat. Laundromat you'd typically want in a location where, the population's high enough, and it's the type of population where they would need a laundromat, a lot of renters, students, whatever, right? And so the location just didn't seem appropriate. When I looked at the books, yes, it was cash flowing, but it wasn't bringing in nearly as much revenue as I would anticipate for a laundromat. So that one I kind of struck out. I could have overcome the employee thing. I maybe could have done some things to increase the revenue with some marketing and stuff, but I don't know. I was a little hesitant, a little risk averse on that one, and didn't pull the trigger. Another one, much better location. Also came with an employee that would do the folding service a little bit further away. It would have been about a 45 to an hour minute drive for me to get there on a regular basis. Not too bad. But it was a bit older and did require some upgrades. So I'm like, none of these were kind of fitting my sweet spot. Am I just being too risk averse? Am I not? Or am I better to wait for the kind of perfect scenario to land in my lap, if there is such a thing, right? So for those reasons, I kind of haven't pulled the trigger.
Got it. So this is the point where I'm going to challenge you a little bit.
Go for it.
So you were working in your corporate career and you were a little bit risk averse to going out and doing something on your own until you were kind of forced into it. So do you think the same thing is kind of happening here where you don't really need this? I mean, yes, you've identified the reasons why it would be super beneficial for you to have another source of income and a business that is more packageable and sellable in the future, building an asset that's not completely reliant on your brand.
Right.
So do you think there's some hang up there on just your risk averseness is still just coming back?
Likely. I mean, to me, those are just excuses, right? At the end of the day, all those are overcome. As long as the business is profitable and there are no major red flags, these are all things that I'm sure I could easily overcome. It's my brain talking me out of it, right? So
and then the other thing with the laundromats in particular, so you had some hesitancy about having an employee off the bat. If you found the perfect laundromat close enough to you in the right neighborhood that was all up to date, didn't need any upgrades, and you bought it, who would be going in the morning and sweeping and mopping and vacuuming? Who would be checking the machines every day? Who would be emptying quarters if need be?
Yeah, no, I definitely wouldn't want to be taking that on myself, at least on a regular basis. So I'd likely have to hire somebody. So that's just a reality.
So, from my perspective, and it's easier for me to say from this seat rather than the one looking at the business, but buying the business with an employee in place almost makes that easier because now you have somebody that already knows the business, knows the customers, knows the machines, knows the operations, that can help you in that transition. It was one of the things when I purchased my wine and liquor store, it came with 2 part-time employees. They had one full-time employee that was retiring on the transition, which I knew about. I was kind of sad to see him go because he did a lot of the ordering of inventory. So it could have been helpful to have him around for a little bit, but the other 2 knew the customers. They knew what needed to get cleaned more often than not. They knew the neighborhood. They knew just the silly things about which light switch does what and which things were working great and how to jiggle the toilet handle when it was running. Like little things like that you are easy to overlook when you're buying a business, because for somebody like yourself and me and a lot of other entrepreneurs, like we're so focused on the numbers and the business itself that it's easy to forget about some of these little details that you have a part-time employee there that probably doesn't cost you very much in the grand scheme of things. They're probably more scared of a new owner than you are of having to manage them. And they can contribute immensely to the business if you let them. So that'd be one area of rethinking your mindset on that of, could this actually look at it as a benefit instead of a detraction from the business?
So was that a hang up for you at all? Like the idea of buying a business that had employees, or was that like right from the bat, you were like, oh no, this is a good thing?
Yeah, I wanted employees, not desperately, but from my perspective, having an employee in place, at least one, but having them more, was an advantageous thing from that perspective of now I have people around me that can do stuff. I don't have to find somebody new and train them in a business that I don't even know myself yet.
That was going to be my next question. Like, did you have any experience in retail or specifically in wine and liquor? So yeah, those employees obviously came with all that knowledge and experience, and obviously that would be a smart thing for me as well. I don't have any experience in any of these businesses I'm looking to purchase. So
yeah, and that's and not necessarily that they're going to be the world of knowledge on the mechanics of the washing machines and dryers or the car wash equipment, but they probably have seen and heard and enough to be helpful in those situations. If something breaks, they probably know who to call. For me, I had the 2 part-time employees that I inherited. One was fairly knowledgeable about wine and liquor. She wasn't, an all-star. She wasn't a sommelier or anything. The other one didn't really have a ton of interest. She had just been working there part-time for a long time and never really retained a lot of that info. But she was super well connected in the town and knew all the people and knew the customers, and it helps. It's an important, that's part of even with laundromats and car wash, like maybe not car washes, but definitely with laundromats, it's a community staple. Like it's an important spot for the community. The other thing too with laundromats, I'm not super familiar with them, but I know some of them beyond the fold service, which can add revenue, some of them fix themselves up pretty nicely. They add like nicer lounges, bathrooms, things like that, which can encourage more people to come because it's a comfortable environment. And having an employee around in those situations is also helpful because now you have somebody to tidy up if the kids make a mess of the little toy area or, somebody spills something. So I like the idea of employees from day one. I think it's a great help with transition. I think it's a great building block to go off of. And again, I've done videos on this topic as well of a lot of times the employees are more scared of a new ownership than you are of having to manage them or lead them or, that
makes sense.
They're nervous. People don't like transition. They think you're going to let go of everybody, but in reality, you need them and you want them. Yeah. They're going to help you. So I would definitely not shy away from looking for in businesses with an employee or 2 in place.
Right.
Especially in your situation. And that's what, where I am now, I don't want to, when I buy another business, I don't want to jump back in at 50 hours a week. So I am now looking for a business that has even stronger leadership in place, not just the part-time employees, but somebody that can really take some ownership and take a lot more off my plate, which may be beneficial to you too. And I know one of the other things you touched on there is how much you're going to have to invest. And that can vary wildly. Now Dennis is in Canada, which is a little bit different than the United States in terms of financing business deals. I'm actually not familiar if Canada has something similar to the SBA, the Small Business Administration, for loan purposes. But every business transaction can be done in different ways. And there's a lot of people out there that talk about buying a business with no money out of pocket. Definitely feasible. It's completely possible. Not super highly recommended for a brand new person to business because you're going to taking a lot of risk. However, it is possible, and you have business knowledge, like you said. You built up these systems. You understand marketing. You understand branding. You understand financial management. So you have a lot of the pieces in place already. Even if the business was bigger than you are anticipating right now, what would it look like if instead of avoiding businesses with an employee, you started thinking about a business with multiple employees and management that could really take the reins?
Yeah.
And
I think I would definitely be open to it, provided a few things were in place. The numbers are strong enough. profit, cash flow wise. I don't want to be taking on something that I have to then turn around too much. I mean, something where there's cash flow and profit in place, but also potential for that to even grow as I invest more in the marketing branding side of it. And it doesn't have to require a ton of my time. If there's strong management in place and I get to more act as the strategic owner, I would definitely be open to that.
Yeah, I think, and again, it is going to come down to the cash that you have available to invest to a point. But there are many profitable businesses out there showing good cash flow where the owners are just tired. And if you find the right one and talk to them in a way that they can see the value in financing the business, because now they get a steady paycheck for a defined period of time. Right. Where they don't have to figure out how to manage a lump sum. I don't know in Canada if the tax incentives are the same, but in the United States, if a seller finances the deal, they're not paying capital gains all at once. They can spread that out over a number of years. Yeah. So that's
definitely some incentives for them to do it that way.
Yeah. And not all of them will see it that way right away, but there are ones out there that do it, and so I guess I would also encourage you to, besides browsing the business listings, which are mostly done by brokers, is to maybe target, if you want to zero in on laundromats, or you want to zero in on car washes or self-storage, figure out how to get to those owners directly.
Yeah.
Send them letters, give them a call. Yeah. Get into the chambers of commerce where they're hanging out, things like that. The Lions clubs, the Rotary clubs, whatever it is. Just start asking around. One tip that I know has worked well for other people in that are trying to scale in a particular industry and buying up a bunch is going into one or two, calling a couple owners and asking them if they know of other owners looking to sell.
Right.
So you're not, if the idea of selling hasn't crossed their mind yet, you're not creating a conflict in their mind by trying to buy them out. You're just spinning their wheels. And that's where somebody might say, yeah, you know what? I don't know anybody, but maybe I'd be open to it. What does this entail, or what does this involve? So, and I know you're a busy guy, so that's tough to find the time to do, but carving out a certain number of hours or minutes or whatever it is, a week, a day, a month, that you make those calls or you make those visits would be could be advantageous for you instead of just browsing the listings.
Yep. Good point.
Are there other industries or other opportunities, like car washes, laundromats, self-storage, or a couple that you named already, but are there other things that you have a skill set in? I don't know what your corporate role was prior, but are there other industries that if you do open your mind to employees that could also be a good fit for you?
Yeah, I mean, my personal background, I started off in software. So I was a software developer and worked my way up into management in a few different companies. So mostly service-based, where we would develop an enterprise software platform and then sell it and deliver it and configure it and train people on how to use it. That's my main corporate background. But in my consulting, I've worked with businesses in multiple different industries, healthcare practitioners. So, physio, chiro, massage places. I've done all kinds of consulting for them. Manufacturing, I've done a bunch of consulting there. Other tech companies, I've done a bunch of consulting. So I'm fairly comfortable in several different types of industries as long as there's a demand for the product or service that they're selling. And if there was, strong leadership in place already, I think I'd be comfortable as long as it's a good fit, I think, for numbers wise and location wise.
So that might be something to think about a little bit more carefully, especially maybe when you're working with clients, to start thinking about it or looking at that particular company or more so that industry as, would I be able to do something in this industry? Are there opportunities in this industry?
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that, because there was one company I worked with, I was doing some consulting for, this was probably maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It was a family owned and run business. They had actually built it up to quite a fairly significant business. They had about 50 employees at this point, bringing in, several $1 million in revenue a year. But there was issues at the leadership side. Not everybody got along. There was issues on the operations where not everything was as efficient as it could be. So they brought me in to help them kind of clean that up. And after working with them for about 6 months, it got to the point where, wow, this is now a much more well-oiled machine. A larger company came along and offered to buy them. And they did. They sold. They were at the point where they were like, wow, it's much more attractive now. It's working great. We've got this massive offer to sell the business. Thanks, Dennis. That was a great job. And I'm like, man, so I can help a business get to that point. So I should know that if I was to buy a business, I could also, do the same sort of thing and get it to that point, or be the one that buys the business myself rather than having them sell it to somebody else, if it makes sense. So that did open my eyes to that is a possibility there. So.
Yeah, I would encourage you to kind of think about that a little bit more with other clients, or even clients that don't hire you, that you interview, right. More so, because now you're not adding value to them and then having to turn around and buy that value that you put in. But
right, yes, yeah, good point. Now that the company's worth a lot more, let me offer to buy it from you.
Yeah. I know a management consultant who has bought into a number of clients over the years where he'll take 50% or 49% of ownership.
Right.
If in exchange for his services, or might put some cash in on top of it.
Right.
And then he has a portfolio of different companies that he's still consulting for, still working with on a regular basis, but he's also getting the upside out of that in the building the equity of the business. Which is, circling back to what you said earlier, you're not really able to do in your current business. So that's another.
It's an interesting thing that I haven't really thought of too much or pursued, but in exchange for my services, take a smaller or even zero consulting fee in exchange for some equity. That's a win-win on both sides. If my consulting really does make a difference, they haven't had to pay me money, just give me an equity stake, which they obviously would have to be open to. But if it goes up, I'm benefiting from that as well. So,
yeah, and I know of another guy who he doesn't even take equity in the companies. He just takes a percentage of revenue from his work. He's more of a sales oriented person, not necessarily a corporate structure person. So that makes sense for him and his situation. I have made offers to companies on that, in that royalty realm as well, in exchange for services. So it is something to keep. That's another way to keep in mind. You're not necessarily getting the equity of the company, but you are getting some residual income for a, defined or infinite period of time, depending on how you structure that.
I think I'm at the point where equity and ownership is kind of my focus right now. So if I'm not to buy a company straight out, having some equity in another one is another option. So
Good. Anything else I can answer for you, or any other questions on your mind in regards to the businesses?
No, you've given me lots to think about and chew on and go back and start taking some action in different areas. So I definitely appreciate the conversation here. It's renewed my passion for pursuing this little deeper and further than I have been so far.
Perfect. Then I look forward to having you on in a few months after you've purchased your business. And,
no pressure, eh?
No, that's if I'm going to be coaching you, I got to hold you accountable here.
There you go. There you go.
We need some future guests on the podcast that have purchased businesses as well. So
there you go.
We'll have you back on soon and talk about whatever business it is that you acquired.
I look forward to that day.
Perfect. Do you want to let everybody out there know where they can find you and what kind of person might be able to utilize your services?
Sure. Yep. So if it's consulting for businesses, I help with leadership strategy, innovation, stuff like that. So you can go to zero-inconsulting.com, and that is my company website. For me personally, I also help a lot of people who want to bet on themselves start their own one-person coaching or consulting business. And so for that, and to learn more about me and what I do, you can go to my website, dennisgeelan.me. Or connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm quite active there, approaching 20,000 followers and connections. So love to chat with people on that platform as well.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And I would encourage everybody to go out and watch Dennis's TEDx speech as well that's up on YouTube, and check him out on LinkedIn and Threads, which is where we connected.
That's right.
So I'll drop all of those links in the show notes below. Thank you all for taking the time to listen or watch today. Really appreciate it. Dennis, thank you for your time. If you're listening, please take a second to hit the subscribe or follow button on whatever podcast platform you are on right now. It would really mean a lot to me. And thank you again. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to Business Buying for Financial Independence. If you're serious about owning your time and building long-term wealth, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.